Hey everyone, welcome into Pro Football Ireland. After week 8 of the NFL season this Monday morning, I want to wish everybody in the Republic a happy bank holiday. Going by some accounts on the NFL online, you think the North was off as well. We're not. Some of us are if you work in public sector jobs. However, a very, very happy bank holiday to everybody in the Republic. Now, first off, I'll welcome in Michaela and Conor. Michaela, who's got a better bank holiday, the North in August or the South now? Now, don't be one-sided here because today is the bank holiday, but I feel like the August bank holiday is so much better at the end of August for the North. I'm just going to put it out there.
No, I'm going to disagree and say that it's the October bank holiday just simply because I feel like Halloween deserves its own kind of bank holiday, and so does October. But I do think the day would be better if it actually was on Halloween and not the Monday before, because it's a bit awkward. It's a bit annoying now that like everyone's still in school tomorrow or in work actually on Halloween. It doesn't really make sense that the bank holiday should actually be on Halloween itself, unless Halloween's a weekend and then it should be the following Monday. So that's the only thing I'll say. But definitely October bank holiday is better.
I really don't agree, but we can have this argument offline. It's half term for the kids, so everyone's happy there. But I don't know, Connor Mangan, you're Irish, but you're like an independent intermediary here because you're in Toronto. So I feel like college football is a Saturday in Dublin. If you're in the North, you get the Monday off. It's nice, like. And you're on mute. Can you believe it? He's actually on mute. Incredible.
Sorry, lads. We don't actually have bank holiday here tomorrow, so and our times haven't changed. So, but Halloween is incredibly popular here. It's absolutely buzzing, massive holiday. So,
I don't get it. I just don't like. I'm gonna get in trouble here now. I don't get it. Like I like it. Maybe it's because I don't have kids or something. I just like my whole neighborhood is just covered in Halloween stuff. And this is the thing, right? It wasn't like that last year, and this year it's covered in like cobwebs and pumpkins, and it's great. And I'm really happy for everyone. I just hate when, and we're going to talk about the NFL here, right? But I hate when parents drive their kids 5 miles or 6 kilometers up the road and drop their kids into my estate. I've never seen these kids in my life, and they're banging my door on Tuesday night. No, absolutely not. I'm not giving you sweets. Is that me being a Scrooge or what's the crack?
I do think the popularity in Halloween is definitely due to like I know like America and Canada celebrate it a lot. So I do think the popularity of Halloween kind of getting bigger. I've definitely noticed that there's, been a little bit more decorations this year, even with the shops and stuff like that, and restaurants and businesses in Ireland. They all have kind of like the autumn fall decor slash Halloween. I do think it's definitely an American influence, even though it kind of originated from Ireland, so it should be kind of a really, really big deal here anyway. But yeah, I love that it's getting really popular. It must be like due to sitcoms or television shows or like YouTube or TikTok or something. But it's great. I love it. I do agree with you though that like stay in your own estates. That's weird. Going to different estates. Like just stay in your own area.
So sorry, Monday morning listeners, just to translate. That's what Michael and Michaela said. So anyway, to football.
To football, and we're talking about having a scary week. And Michaela, I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to get Connor's perception first as a player, and I feel like it's the sort of perfect interlude. And I'll get your opinion before I give mine. Kirk Cousins, at the time of recording, is more than likely out for the season with an Achilles injury. There are so many long-term things. Maybe Michaela, me and you can talk about the contract situation there and everything that can happen. But Connor, just first off, as somebody that plays the sport and has been on grass that is not a park or a GA field or something, I need to double check if that's a hybrid turf at Lambeau Field. But this is controversial in the sense of we've seen what happened to Aaron Rodgers. We now see what happens to Kirk Cousins, and potentially this could be career ending if he doesn't go back in the right way from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about injuries in general coming from non grass fields, not just Achilles. It's kind of interesting that two massive quarterbacks, two very popular quarterbacks, have both picked up Achilles injuries. But it goes back to like the conversation over the last 10 years has really been ACLs and like really bad knee injuries, because once like there's ankle injuries and other kind of lower limb injuries that you can have, but once the kind of knee goes, I think it's hard to get yourself back. I know the science around it and injuries and stuff, it's getting a lot better. We're reconstructing knees and repairing knees and rehabbing knees. But once the knee goes, it's gone. The Achilles is like another animal altogether. It's a massively strong tendon. It takes a tremendous amount of force to pull it out. With the grass, you can definitely twist and turn, and there's a lot more give in it. And your studs or your boots kind of do lean into it. With the turf, it doesn't. Like I've played on a lot of them, even just the indoor football field that I played in this year in Arizona and kind of around the US. They're like there's no give whatsoever. Like you can't even wear cleats in them. They're soft, but there's no give in them. So yeah, definitely like a major impact, especially when you've like massive amounts of force and pressure pushing through that, and quarterbacks trying to stay on their feet or trying not to get smashed. They're going to try and dig their foot into something, and just there's no give. It's very tough. It is a bit surprising because Lambeau is kind of a hybrid field, and it's not 100% grass as far as I know. But yeah, it's kind of a bit depressing that there's another Achilles injury, major one in the NFL, and especially to a guy who's playing. He's having a great season so far. I mean, we love him on this podcast, so there's a rise in it. I don't know if they're going to change it. I know a lot of players would much prefer to play on grass or mud. Literally every single player I've met or played with would prefer. The thing they like about the turf is it's faster and you can train in it whenever. The grass is, it gets wetter and stuff. But aside from that, I think nearly every single player I've played with would prefer to play on grass.
And just to go on the next week's conversation, the games in Frankfurt will be played on an artificial hybrid turf. Is that a correct term, folks? I don't know. I'll find out. But it's been made or grown in the Netherlands, and it's been installed over the last week. So time will tell on that. A lot of complaints about it last year. I'm not complaining. It's all good. Two of my homes. I don't care if they play on clay. Michaela, that being said, though, I feel for Kirk Cousins. I feel for anyone that has an Achilles injury. I feel like we were all, as fans, as people that talk, report, analyze the game, I feel everybody this season was really robbed of seeing Aaron Rodgers and the Jets this season. It didn't happen. And now we see, just at around the halfway point of the season, the Minnesota Vikings, who won last week, won today. Frankly, the Packers didn't even turn up today. That's a whole different conversation. But this season now for Cousins looks like it's gone. But long term, he doesn't have a contract to stay in Minnesota. He's probably played his last game for the Vikings. This is pretty heartbreaking. Like, I think it's heartbreaking, and I think for him, where's he going to go? Like, what team is going to want to take him after this injury? And look, if I was a GM, I'd bring him in anywhere. But it's more, we don't know how he's going to come back. The contract valuation in terms of what he would be paid is going to be completely flexible now. I feel sorry for him because he was working with very difficult circumstances over the last few weeks, and I thought he'd done a stellar job.
Yeah, I do feel bad for him in the sense that, the Vikings have just started to turn things around, and I could actually genuinely see them getting to the playoffs now. And, Connor's kind of prediction of them winning the Super Bowl definitely could have happened if they had gone in this trajectory. Now that they've gone, like, to beat the San Francisco 49ers is a big thing. Like, they're probably going to be in the NFC Championship game with the Eagles, so that is not a small thing to do. So I do feel bad. Like, once you hear in the NFL or any sports that it's a knee injury or it's an Achilles injury, they're going to be out for the season most likely. So it's just really unfortunate. But I think the contract situation, I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings bring him back because, unless the Vikings, I was concerned when they brought in their backup quarterback. I had no idea who he was. He didn't play very well from what I've seen. So I'd be concerned now as, a Vikings fan for the rest of the season. Like, they're probably going to have a high draft pick now. I don't see them kind of getting anywhere without Cousins. But I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him back, to be honest, to Minnesota, unless they get a very, very high draft pick and they can get a really good quarterback in the draft. But other than that, I don't see anyone that's going to be available. in the league that's better than him. On his day, he's a top 5 quarterback. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings bring him back in on a 2-year, 3-year contract. But if he decides, look, it's not happening with the Vikings, then he will have anyone in the NFL will want him who needs a quarterback. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. But yeah, really devastating for the Vikings and for Cousins this year that it seems like a season could be finished.
Yeah, bang on. I think the bigger thing, and we're talking about this on a Sunday night post the games. Lions are Monday Night Football, folks. Looks like obviously now the NFC North could be the Lions to lose, and as Conor Mangan potentially walks away to do something to his dinner, I think he's going to do. He gives me happy days. It's one of those things. Michaela, just very quickly, while we're waiting on Conor to come back, this is going out on a Monday morning. Lions hosting the Raiders. Obviously, Lions very disappointing last week. Presuming you're I think all of us took the Lions to win on Monday night. They'll be buoyed by this, and we shouldn't be saying that, but they'll be looking at that now tonight, going, well, they were the only team that we probably could have took here. They'll be looking to wrap up the NFC North very quickly from this, won't they?
Oh, 100%. Like if Cousins hadn't have gotten injured, I definitely think, the Vikings were, like I said, back on the right track. They would have been a playoff team. They would have contended for that top spot in the NFC North. But now that Cousins is gone, I think their season is finished. There's no way. Like, could they bring somebody in? Like,
Potentially. I haven't got a name off the top of my head now, but I guess for Kevin O'Connell to stand in the press conference and know immediately, minutes after the game, that this was happening, you wonder, and I haven't got the backups name in front of me right now, but they could
I think
potentially.
he's a rookie, a 6th-round pick from BYU. I think now there was a few backups that had to come in today, but I think he was a 6th-round pick, if I remember correctly, from BYU. I think it was. I didn't recognize him, but that doesn't really matter because if he plays well, he plays well. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, they could trade for him.
Tom Brady.
I do think when is the trade deadline?
This week. So
yeah, I don't think they're going to throw the season away. I think they probably will bring in someone. They need a decent quarterback anyway, and they need a decent backup, so they'll probably bring in a backup-esque type player. But yeah, the Lions will have that NFC North wrapped up.
I think it's interesting just for people that are listening to this that are Vikings fans. I've met a few, especially in Northern Ireland, over the last couple of years, including the lad that read the pick out for the Vikings in the draft last year. Big shout out to you, mate. Josh Johnson, Mike White, Teddy Bridgewater, Carson Wentz, Jacoby Brissett. Certain people, Carson Wentz could be an option, but I guess the biggest question will be, Michaela, and just for everyone listening, if the trade deadline is early this week, what is the potential benefit in them losing capital long term if they're about to open up a lot of cap space after letting go of Kirk Cousins? I think it's sad for Kirk. I really warmed to him after watching the show on Netflix, A Quarterback and His Family. And I certainly hope, along with Aaron Rodgers, people coming back from these serious injuries, that they're given the chance to go out on their terms. Yes, they may be paid an incredible amount of money, and that's fair enough. However, they deserve, after putting the time, the effort into not just what's on the field, but outside of it, they deserve to be given the time to maybe end their career in the way that they want to. And I hope that Kirk Cousins gets that. Just waiting on Conor to come back here, Michaela. Let's talk about the Broncos and the Chiefs very quickly here, because why? I'll tell you why. Because whenever I was living in Barcelona in 2015, that was the year the Broncos won the Super Bowl. In 2016, so just the same year and like the same span. And from September the 17th, 2015, when Peyton Manning was starting for the Broncos and Alex Smith for Kansas City, and that was a Thursday night game, and the Broncos won the game in the last 2 minutes. I'll never forget it. It was a great day for a Broncos fan. Great game at Arrowhead, but it was a span of 16 straight regular season games. The Broncos had lost to the Chiefs ever since. And this is the first time, Michaela, I'm nearly certain, in Patrick Mahomes loses to an AFC West divisional rival. So it does, yes, the Broncos are not going to be challenging down the stretch this season, But defensively, they've put up a performance today, and I know people will be looking at two different elements for me before Conor comes in. It came out earlier on today that Patrick Mahomes was struggling with the flu. I think everyone now in the current health predicament starts to ask, is it the flu, etc. Different conversation, and I think that's a fair enough conversation to have. Also, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the Chiefs are not training in Frankfurt until Friday, which would suggest to people that they're not arriving until Thursday night / Friday morning, whereas the Dolphins arrive Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Just sort of your thoughts, because like they're going to have to pick up from here and get a win, or go for it next week, because you cannot start to go on a run of losing games like we've seen the Niners, and we'll talk about down the stretch here.
Yeah, I definitely think watching the Chiefs when I have seen them on Red Zone and looking at their, results, I don't think they've hit their stride this season. There's just something about them that they're missing. They're definitely not as explosive as they were last season. You wouldn't look at Patrick Mahomes and be like, oh yeah, he's an MVP candidate. I think everyone's going to be very surprised that the Broncos bet them, because yourself as a Broncos fan, they're not playing very well this season.
Nobody gave them a
but
chance in hell today. Like, not one person. I'd say if you looked at every ESPN, NFL Network, every outlet,
every person
nobody gave
picking,
them a chance.
they would have picked the Chiefs. And I'm not a big fan of the Chiefs, even though, I love Taylor Swift and she's going out with Kelsey. I'm still not a fan of the Chiefs. So I'm quite happy they've lost, but yeah, you can definitely see Patrick Mahomes was struggling today. He didn't throw a touchdown at all. He had 2 picks. That is unheard of for him to not even get a touchdown in a game. And then Wilson had a great game. He didn't have a lot of yards, but he got 3 touchdowns. That's what matters. So I think the Broncos should just take this, and be very, very happy. You can definitely see that Mahomes was struggling with something, and they did report that it was the flu. But that's an interesting point that you had, that maybe it could be something else. Maybe it could be a slight injury. Who knows? But I do reckon it's just the flu or whatever. But I'm happy. I'll take this Chiefs loss. People probably say I'm a hater, but I hate cocky teams, and they're very cocky. So I'm very happy they lost today.
I would say, as a Broncos fan, when you win and when you're a good team, you're cocky. And yeah, like how they won the Super Bowl last year to turn around and shut people up, frankly, was sensational. Like, they just didn't really get going today, I thought. I think the Broncos were very, very good against the Chiefs in terms of sort of stopping the run game. Isaiah Pacheco just didn't really get going. And a guy that was very, very good last week, Rashee Rice, yes, he had almost like 60 yards on the day, but he just really couldn't get going today against the Broncos. And the Broncos stifled him up. That being said, on the other side of the ball for the Chiefs, a guy that had the chance to meet at opening night last year, a guy originally from Greece, George Karlaftis, there was times in the first half he completely beat up Russell Wilson, and he's such a talent. And I guess for Chiefs fans watching this, before they start swearing at both me and you, I'd say, look, you look at where Mahomes is. Mahomes is an exemplar quarterback. He's the best in the league for me. I think he's going to go down as one of the best of his generation, if not one of the best ever, if he keeps going on the trajectory that he's on and what he's been able to do with certain championship teams so far. The fact at the age where he is, where he's won 2, I think now, if we know the Chiefs and if we know what they've done throughout the last few years, it's only week 8. They're going to win their division at the very, very, very least. I think if you're Buffalo tonight, you're looking at that going, thank God, there might be a chance here. But I think it sets up next week beautifully, because Miami are unbelievable in their offense. They've got a top-notch defense. And with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, et al., it's going to be sexy. I was just chatting, Conor, before you came in there. If you can hear us, raise your eyebrows. That's a wee bit of history. I'm not sure. I was saying to Michaela, I'm not sure if you remember. I do, because I'm a sad Broncos fan who was living in Spain at the time. And I remember watching the 4 o'clock in the morning, that Thursday night game, when Manning beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Like, they should never have won that game. Hard to believe that they did not win a game against the Chiefs since until today. Are you concerned about the Chiefs going into Frankfurt next week? As it was saying to Michaela there, they don't get into the city until Thursday night / Friday morning. And then the Dolphins come in Tuesday night. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about them yet. I mean, they're an amazing team. They're an unbelievable team. They've Taylor Swift as their tight end. You know, they'll be totally fine. Um, I mean, I think Denver is just one of those teams. Like, of course, Denver, like, are not. Yeah. Of course, Denver beat them. You know, like, why else wouldn't happen? That's such an NFL thing to happen, like mid-season, just a random team like Denver, kind of a bit random this year, just goes out and beats basically a lot of people's outright favorites for the league. I'm not worried about them yet. I think they still got plenty of weapons there. Patrick Mahomes is a brilliant quarterback. I don't think they're running into problems, but it is kind of tough because they just lost this. And you said they're going to go to Germany and then they're going to play against a really, really good offensive team with Miami, and they could only score, was it 9 points today? That maybe they would be worried, but I'm not worried about them as kind of a fan of a great football team kind of going forward. I think they'll be fine.
If you're young and hip and you'd like to interact with anything that we're saying, including what Michaela, you deem yourself a Chiefs hater, even what you said about yourself there now, feel free to give us a shout on TikTok at NFL Ireland. How do you do, fellow kids? As I text Conor Mangan this morning, that gif. We're flying on TikTok. Whoever watched that video with Germany, fair play to you, folks. Unreal. I'm actually going to cry. It's unreal. Class. Anyway, I'm really excited for that next week. It's going to be unbelievable. It's like European Super Bowl. And talking about a Super Bowl, let's talk about an Irish Super Bowl very, very quickly. The two global market teams, the Steelers and the Jags, played tonight. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Really, really, like the Steelers were really, I'm not sure if you've seen this. The Steelers were really, really poor. Kenny Pickett's got a rib injury. Mika Fitzpatrick goes off. Michaela, non-contact injury, out for the game immediately. But the Jags were class again, and just really, really showing how good they are. And we'll talk about Will Levis on the next segment in this podcast. But for me, it's like, I like Kenny Pickett. I want to believe in his progression. I think a lot of people now have the Steelers as their so-called second team at a minimum. But when you look at Will Levis going out in his first start, and we'll talk about him in a minute, getting 4 passing touchdowns, and Kenny just struggles against Jacksonville, it's not really good enough. And they have to, like, they play the Titans on Thursday night now. What a game. Oof.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars are kind of like a sleeper team. Like they're 6-2. Like I'm just after checking their record. And I know you're kind of like, why are you calling the Jaguars a sleeper team? But I think it's kind of like they're not as like they have the same record as the Kansas City Chiefs. Like that's incredible. Like I think, for me personally, the way I'm not kind of looking at the Jags is not because I don't think they're a great team. You guys know I'm a big Jags and Trevor Lawrence fan and Doug Peterson fan, but it's just kind of like you don't realize some of the teams' records, if that makes sense. Like even the Steelers, like I thought the Steelers had a worse record than they do. They're still 4-3 after losing this game. They're still over 500. So like losing tonight wasn't the worst thing.
Titans and the Packers in the next 2 weeks. They have to win both those games, though. Seriously.
I think Will Levis, no, I don't. I think he's going to be red hot. I think if he starts the rest of the season and plays the way he did and just doesn't suddenly take a random turn and be awful, I think he's rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, if he continues on this projection. But the Steelers are still 4-3. I would be concerned about Kenny Pickett because, I was looking at the injury on Red Zone and I'm actually a bit surprised it's a rib injury. It looked like he hurt his elbow more so the way he landed on it. Even my girlfriend was kind of grimacing when she saw the replay of him landing on his elbow. She thought he broke his elbow actually, but yeah. But David Trubisky, he's second. He was a second round, not a second round. He was a second pick in the draft. Second overall pick in the draft. It didn't work out in Chicago. He's the backup at the Steelers, but he's very capable, he's a good backup. So if I was a Steelers fan and, Kenny Pickett could be out for a few weeks, I wouldn't be worried because I think Trubisky is a good enough backup. And, Mike Tomlin manages to get his wins. He's always over 500. So, yeah, just hopefully they'll play better. I do think they're going to maybe struggle against the Titans if the Titans and Will Levis played like they did today. But they should, no problem, beat the Green Bay Packers.
Conor, this is a Michael from Pro Football Ireland comment. I think the Steelers have got a hell of a team. young team, both sides of the ball. I think if Mr. Trubisky plays the next 2 games, I think they'll lose both games. I just think he struggled today.
Totally agree. He did a great job. He made the all-team interceptions. He's going to try and go all-pro interception, I think, if he keeps going.
I like Mitch. So he's had like what he's done with certain teams has been good, but I don't think he fits with this Tomlin offense. Connor, do you agree, or what do you think?
I mean, I don't think it was like it's obviously not the plan to play him. I'm not sure if Kenny Pickett was a guy either. I know we talked about that last week, Michael. He just doesn't seem like the guy to get them there. I'm kind of surprised he's there. I'm surprised they're not going after someone else. Like I don't know, Kirk Cousins next year. Maybe Kirk Cousins becomes a Steeler. Like Michaela's grimacing, but maybe he does. Maybe they need someone better, someone steadier for a couple of years. But yeah, I agree with you. If Mitch Trubisky starts any game next week, that team will probably lose that game.
I agree, and I think if Mika is like, I mean, very very short week for the Steelers. We're going to shut up about the Steelers now, but we're 3 weeks out from the watch party. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Avec Cervezas. We're going to end this segment. We'll be back in 2 seconds. If you're on the podcast, stay right here. If you're on the video, stay right here. Pro Football Ireland Monday Morning Football. Before we talk about the Niners, Michael McQuaid, Michaela Faking, Conor dropkick Mangan. You can get him at dropkick Mangan. So he doesn't use Twitter though because he hasn't followed me yet, so he definitely doesn't use it. Michael McQuaid here. I'm taking the hand, Conor. It's late. I'm trying to stay awake. Let's go straight into it. The Tennessee Titans, Michaela, almost the bed against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not gonna lie. When I made the pick for the Titans, I was like, I'll have a bit of crack here. Like, if I pick the Falcons, I'll go and lose. If I pick the Titans, who knows what will happen? I don't think any of us really expected that a man that said that the brown parts of bananas were scared of him and that took mayonnaise in his coffee was going to ball out against the Falcons. Is this a one-time thing against the yo-yo defense in the Atlanta Falcons? Or is Will Levis, Michaela, going to go in on Thursday night and throw another 3 or 4 touchdowns and start putting the league on notice? I think it's too late, 8 weeks in, for him to go and win an award. But my God, Tennessee might have their man, and Ryan Tannehill could be done. Another guy that could be done.
Yeah, I was very impressed watching him today. I think especially when he threw that kind of long range ball over everyone's heads to DeAndre Hopkins. Like, that's something that you want DeAndre Hopkins to be able to have in a quarterback. Like, and I think it was that throw that kind of made me go, oh, like, he could, be something at Tennessee. I think, Tannehill's been struggling too much. And they also have Malik Wills as well, don't they? So, they have a good quarterback room when you look at them to trade them together. But yeah, I'm really excited about Will Levis. I will disagree with you. And I do think if he plays every game the rest of the season and he plays every game like this and throws 3 touchdowns a game and the Titans, can get like at least over 500, I think he could be offensive rookie of the year because, looking at all the rookies, the offensive rookies, the only one that probably, not the only one, they're obviously all playing very well, ish, not all of them, but a good few of them, like, CJ Stroud's playing very well, the Texans are a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Bijan Robinson is probably the favorite for that award at the moment, and he's playing very well, but everyone loves quarterbacks, the league loves quarterbacks, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did win the award if he plays this well, but I'm very excited to watch them now. Like, I don't think I'm gonna bet against them now for unless they're playing somebody like the Chiefs or the Bills or something. Like, I would probably pick them over the Steelers, and etc. going forward. But yeah, I think you're right. I think they could have their guy in Will Levis.
Will Levis. Connor, they could have their guy, but they could lose a few games. I'm going to take the Steelers on Thursday night. I'm going straight in. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. It would take a hell of a performance, Connor, to win a rookie award, but he could do it. I mean, if he got 2 or 3 passing touchdowns and continue to get a rating over the next 7 to 8 weeks, he could get in the conversation. Certainly. Do you feel like he's maybe went a couple of weeks too late for that, or do you believe in Will Levis?
Oh, I believe. I'm a firm believer as a former Rookie of the Year player myself that you can make a lot happen in a short period of time. I think a lot of it comes down to what the storyline is. You definitely need a good story. Um, Will Levis bringing out the best in DeAndre Hopkins, or no, sorry, but I think if he tells the right story and he plays excellently, this could be his. It could definitely happen. I think it all just depends on how they go through it, what the games are like. I mean, it should be exciting. I think he definitely has a good shot.
Couldn't find the mute button. Sorry, folks. Yeah, let's see what happens. I really was excited and sort of shocked by the way that he played. So I feel like let's see, and he's certainly helping us this week on social media. So thank you very much to Will Levis. We have to talk about the Niners and we have to talk about the Bengals. But I guess first off, like Michaela, you mentioned in the first part, because we're on a Sunday night, we don't really get a lot of time to sort of go back on the Monday night football. Last week, obviously the Vikings beat the 49ers at home, and sometimes you can look at the perception of two different things: the home crowd in Minnesota, but then also how Brock Purdy performed after his concussion. I was sort of surprised whenever we seen the news come out about Brock Purdy already clearing it. It was actually funny because we were literally joking on a record with Mark and Jason for the midweek one about, oh, something will happen in the next 40 minutes. And it came out Brock Purdy is, and it's like, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? Like, seriously? Or he had just entered a concussion protocol, sorry. So we thought at the time of that recording that he wasn't going to play. Not great. Not great to say the least. Just, his worst performance statistically in a Niners jersey in terms of interceptions. He only thrown 2 in his whole career until his last 2 games, where he's now thrown 5. So over the last 2 games, it's statistically his worst. He had more rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey. And outside, of course, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, they always get the ball down the field. The Bengals were absolutely superb. And it shows you sort of, I guess, Michaela, the short-termism of the league, where a lot of us, including myself, were writing the Bengals off a few weeks ago. They looked unreal, big time. And if they keep playing like that, you're talking about Will Levis winning an award. If the Bengals keep playing like that, they're going to be very, very hard to beat. And they could be sitting beside us in Vegas in February.
Yeah, like you all know that I picked the Bengals at the start of the season, so I was to win the Super Bowl. So I was very bummed, that they were turning out the performances they did at the start of the season. But they did this last year as well. They started off really poorly, and people were like, "Oh, them getting to the Super Bowl was just like a fluke." Basically, we know Joe Burrow's great, but maybe they shouldn't have made the Super Bowl that soon. So I'm glad to see they're back to winning ways. They're 4-3, so they have that winning record. And I think now that they have that kind of confidence again, and they've bet a team that's definitely 100% going to go far in the playoffs. They're going to be like, okay, we're back to how we should be, back to winning ways. Obviously they can put it down to Joe Burrow having his injury kind of at the start of the season with his calf. But for me, it was looking at the records, and even though, the 49ers are the 49ers and they're one of the best teams in the league, for me, it was looking at their records. The 49ers lost their last 2 games. The Bengals have won their last 2 games, so I knew the Bengals were on a red hot streak. I think if the Bengals had started off as good as a record as the Chiefs, this would have been, the game of the week in a sense. So I'm very happy for the Bengals. I'm very happy for Joe Burrow. But for me, it was, the way they've both played the last 2 weeks. Like I said, 49ers were losing, Bengals were winning. So I think that played a big role. But then also before kickoff, I saw that Trent Williams was out and I saw Deebo Samuel was out. And I said, the Bengals are going to win this, I think. And I'm very happy they did. And looking at the schedule for the 49ers have some tough games. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars on, I think the 49ers are on a bye week. Are they next week? And then they have the Jaguars on the 12th of November is their next game. That's going to be a tough one because the Jaguars are red hot at the moment. And then they have the Seahawks, which is, you don't really think of the Seahawks, as a top team. But then again, they beat the Browns tonight. I think the Seahawks, are they 5-2? I think they are. No, they're 5-3, I think.
They won tonight
So
against the Cardinals, or against the Browns, sorry, and the way
Browns.
that they came back was I was watching it there before we came on. It was just, we'll probably talk about that next because the Browns defense, but yeah, it was unreal.
Yeah, you talk about
Yes.
changing storylines there. It's mad because now, like 2 weeks ago, what were we thinking? Bengals suck. Joe Burrow was injured. 49ers are unbeatable. And now it's like, Bengals may make the Super Bowl and the 49ers are struggling.
But, like,
Connor, they've
it's
really dropped off.
Revis is the best quarterback in the league.
They've
it's like
massively dropped off.
Yeah.
it's like I do think the 49ers are definitely going to go far in the playoffs, but it's like looking at their schedule, it's like Jaguars, they have to play the Seahawks twice, they have to play the Eagles, they have to play the Ravens. So
Yeah, I
they
wouldn't
have
want to play. I wouldn't want to play one of those teams, not because all of them are unbeatable or anything like that, but they're all dangerous games. Like they could easily lose.
exactly, like they'll probably lose like at least two. They could at least lose 3 or 2 of them.
I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, Connor. I'll ask you this, and I'll feel free to chat away. Sorry, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to take time away from you. Like for me, it's like I said, I was recording earlier on during the week, and the news came out that it looked like Sam Darnold would start because Brock Purdy was under concussion protocol. Come Thursday, whenever I had to make a pick for a graphic, I was like, well, do you know what? I'll pick Cincinnati based on the fact that I don't believe Sam Darnold will go into a game. Will go into a game and be fully fresh from what I've seen of him in New York. Absolutely no chance. And that's why I picked him. But then whenever it came out about Brock Purdy this week, towards the end of the week, I was like, I'm on the edge here. If I could change this pick, I would now. But you know what? I'll just roll with it for the crack. I was proven wrong with how well the Bengals played. But I think it goes down to a lot more than just like the form the teams were in. I think we're not talking about this enough. I'm not talking about us, but about everyone. Like literally tonight, Brock Purdy, in the second or third quarter, literally grabbed his head on his neck. It snapped just at the end of the game today. He did not, like, in my opinion, he did not look comfortable the whole time. He may have passed the concussion protocol, Connor, but I certainly don't think he was fit to start that game. And
yeah, we discussed some of this last week. Like players will play injured for an entire season. Like guys will play with their hamstring hanging off their leg. There's nothing that will stop them other than like even a doctor or whatever. Like you can just go ahead and play. So maybe he is hanging on something.
Surely that's down to Shanahan though. Like Shanahan has to pull him if he like as a coach who has his team's interest at heart, who knows that the team are on a downward spiral. Michaela said it herself there now. They have a very difficult schedule coming up. Why doesn't Shanahan, who is such a insert quarterback here coach, he's not too fussed on the high end guys, plug and play. He's got Sam Darnold there. He's clearly happy because he bet the farm to get Trey Lance and he somehow got away with that whole conversation. Why doesn't he just put Sam Darnold in for that second half? Clearly, I need to sit back and watch coach's tape on Monday, but Brock Purdy did not look comfortable in that game. And if this happens again after the bye,
if Shanahan looks Brock Purdy in the eye, so if you're watching this video, looks him right to and goes, "Son, can you play? Are you good?" And of course, Brock Purdy is going to say, like 99% of NFL players in the middle of CTE will probably say, "Yeah, I'm good." Do you know what I mean? Like there's no, like, especially in the run of the moment, in the heat of the moment and right in the middle of everything, of course you want to play, even before the games, like players are distraught when they get taken out and stuff like that. So maybe he is carrying something. Like Deebo Samuel is also out. So he has a lot more time, a lot more options when he's got Deebo and McCaffrey and Ayuk kind of running around, running all this routes. Because it's like, well, who do we guard? Who do we take? Like, what are we covering? There's usually more space. Brock Purdy can be a bit more productive. Obviously throw less interceptions. So he's out. So like that's, I think, a big cog. Like people are saying that Deebo Samuel actually wasn't having that good of a year. Why he's not having that good a year? It's because Christian McCaffrey is the best player on the planet. That's why, because he's taking the ball all the time. But he's that good because Deebo is that good at basically distracting and taking other players' attention away from McCaffrey, because Deebo Samuel is absolutely amazing. So I think that's kind of a big thing that maybe we're not looking into. But perhaps there is something wrong with Purdy. I don't know. But it's hard to take a guy out like that mid-game for those sort of reasons. It is.
I mean, there's multiple college players that earn more money than him. He's literally paying rent. He's just about paying rent apparently in San Francisco at the minute, living with a mate.
Oh, I love
I
it.
think just
He's
the
my
way
hero.
that we're treating him, Connor, is a little bit sus. And I love the Niners fans. I think 49ers Ireland lads, I love you. These are massive supporters of us. I'm not being down on your team. I just feel like if you've got a bye next week and you've got the Jags who are red hot, sit him. But then the problem is if Sam Darnold come in tonight and balled out against the Bengals, then that's it. It's over.
And you're taking a huge, broad view, looking down, and you're looking towards the future. Like when you're in the game, it's like, let's win this game. We're not thinking about next week. We're not thinking about last week. I want you to think about the next 10 seconds. You know, like any quote we want to give from any given Sunday, all that sort of stuff is kind of the only thing that matters. Like, you know, your family doesn't matter, your dog doesn't matter, you know, your roast that's
Your
in the
dog
oven,
doesn't matter.
I don't burn doesn't matter. You know, you are just in there in that moment. So it's just, let's win this. Okay, what's my best avenue to win this? The Springboks think it's a 7-1 bench. Sometimes it works. And the 49ers think, okay, let's leave Brock Purdy in there. So
let's leave the Springboks. I mean, congrats to the Springboks, but the wrong team in green won. I cried watching that last night. We have one more topic on this broadcast this evening. I want to say one more thing before we talk about that topic. Joe Burrow was 28 of 32, 326 total yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 134.8 passer rating. That is unbelievable. Let's talk about the Seahawks and Browns before we head to the Leba, or for some people in the North, work, because nobody in the South is going to work today by the sounds of it. Very jealous. Not really, because I'm off anyway. Anyway,
real quick before the Seattle Seahawks, just for anyone who is following, Daniel Whelan had another very, very good game. I know his team are kind of not looking the best at the moment, but Daniel Whelan actually had 4 punts, averaged 51.8 yards. Great holds for Anders Carlson, who's kind of struggling a little bit. It's interesting, they have 2 rookies as their specialists. So, but anyone who is watching, Daniel is still flying the flag proud, and he had another amazing game. So,
the highest interacted post ever on our social channels last week, nearly 2,000 likes on Facebook, and multiple people arguing over the contrast of the color. That looks like an Italian flag.
Well, you know, if you're in Ireland, do you know that Taylor Swift's attending games, or do you know that Daniel Whelan's at a game? You know, it's just kind of
good news, my friend, and for everyone listening. Taylor is on tour in a week and a half in Mexico, and apparently she's too focused on that to go to Frankfurt next week. I'm joking. I like Taylor, but Travis Kelce's unbeaten, and the Chiefs are unbeaten with Taylor in the crowd. So they're a reference for the week. Anyway, let's just talk about Browns Seahawks. Browns defense, unbelievable, but Michaela did a lot of points in against the Colts last week. That being said, this was a really interesting game in the sense of the Seahawks win it at the end 24-20, but the Browns were on top for a lot of the game after they got back into it. The Seahawks had a very, very strong start. I've been really impressed with sort of the tenacity and the direction of PJ Walker, a quarterback. But, you know, through week 7, the Browns have been number 1 in yards in defense and number 1 in passing yards allowed. You know, the defense today, for a large part, done its job. But the way that game ended, I think if you're going to start calling, and I was calling the Browns defense a championship caliber defense, I think they're that good. I feel like the way that the game ended, it was quite poor, and how they couldn't stop Seattle. That game, the play at the end for Jackson Smith and Jigba was class. And can I just say, the uniforms are sexy. They are the best uniforms in the league by a country mile. They're honestly unbelievable. And if you like my multitasking and you're looking at the screen right now, here they are right here. They are absolutely sensational. Look at this. Look at that. Unreal.
I love them.
Huh?
I love them.
They're unreal. Old school. Can Seattle, Michaela, make a run? They're 5-2. 5-2. Just this time last year, we're going in the Munich, top of the NFC West. Niners struggling. Gino's balling. What do you think, folks?
I think that when I was seeing bits of that game on Red Zone and I saw both teams' records were 4-2, I was like, I did not know they were both playing that well. They're kind of asleep.
How are the Browns still have a winning record?
I don't know how it must be their defense, because I know Deshaun Watson isn't playing the best, and then he's injured as well the last few weeks. So it's obvious it has to be their defense. But I'm very surprised that they both had that good records. But I did favor the Seahawks, so I'm glad they won. But I'm just looking at the Seahawks, and I'm like, no, I know Gino's he's a good quarterback. He played very well last year, but I'm like, what would they be like if they had like a top quarterback like Patrick Mahomes? Or
I think Gino's top quarterback. I think he's unreal.
I don't
I
think
think he's
I don't think he's a top quarterback. I think
wrong.
he's going to
I think
be.
he's like the team just here, but I think he's doing the best. I think he's doing an unbelievable job on that team. Genuine, I think he
No,
is.
there's something. No, there's like a spark or something missing with them. I don't know if it's just because I don't rate Gino because he's been in the league a little while, and I'm kind of like, why didn't you do this at any other teams? I just think they're missing kind of like a young kind of spark, not a rookie, not someone like Gino, but like someone like Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert. I think if they had like Justin Herbert or something, I think they would be so like I think we'd be talking about them as one of the top teams in the NFC. And with that record, they could be arguing, they are one of the top teams. I think the NFC is very interesting where, you look at all these teams in the AFC, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, they're all teams that we expect to do really well. But then you look at the NFC and it's kind of like the Detroit Lions, the Seahawks, we look at some of them and they're kind of like, you don't expect them to have such good records. So these are all kind of like interesting underdog sleeper teams that you'd root for in the playoffs. So I'm very excited to see how the NFC teams fare towards the playoffs and the end of the season. Yeah, but the Seahawks are, like I said, they're a sleeper.
I love Gino just because I think when people like we've all had situations in life when people have doubted us, right? I think what he done last year to come into Seattle and just how they performed last year, and some of the players that they have now, Pete Carroll is just unreal, folks. Connor, I know you probably want to go back to that. Feel free to do so, but I'd love to end the show on this.
No, I'm just laughing at your like devotion to Geno Smith on week 8. I don't
I'm,
think
I'm a Broncos fan. Like I've
in
learned to
9
hate
weeks of talking. I don't know if I've heard you mention it.
We're talking about a Seahawks team that got to the half-yard line. Remember that?
Yeah,
Not that long ago. I mean, I used to hate them. I hated the Legion of Boom, and now I actually love what they are. I think they're a great team.
they're
And
another one of those like stories that's changing rapidly. It's like, like I don't know, we weren't paying attention to the Seahawks. We weren't really paying attention to like the Colts, for example. We weren't really paying attention to the Jags. We thought it might be a little bit interesting. We weren't really paying attention to the Titans. And now it's like, those 4 teams are actually go really, really far. Yeah.
double-ended question, Connor, for you to end this podcast tonight, and Michaela, free for you to jump in after if you want, and then we're going to the Leba. 2 questions. First off, Connor, will Brian Dable be fired tomorrow morning? And secondly, will this game in Germany next weekend be the greatest international game ever, or do you think it'll be a dud?
No, I don't think he will be fired next week or tomorrow or anytime too soon. And next weekend, I'm literally shocked that the Chiefs are playing the Dolphins in Frankfurt. It's like it couldn't have been any perfect for like expanding the game internationally. Going to a place like Germany, like that stadium is a great stadium, and it's massive for the game. Like it's absolutely insane. It's an unreal job. I hope that this does push a lot of it through to Europe. It feeds into the European League of Football. I think it maybe CFL teams start doing it, the Canadian Football League, which is a big league. Maybe the XFL start doing it because I know they're kind of saying things. It's absolutely incredible. It's like having the Champions League in Beijing. It would just it's unreal. It's like Barbenheimer, but with football.
Or like the All Ireland final in London or something like that.
Yeah, like well, I mean that might be All Ireland final maybe in like Madrid or Paris and London.
Could you imagine the uproar? Could you actually imagine the uproar? Michaela, I'm presuming in terms of the Brian Dable conversation, you're never picking the Giants again, or what's the crack? Are you done with them?
No, I'm not done with them. I think they'll get the odd win.
They're not like I don't want to jump in here, but I could be completely wrong, right? Did they have -9 passing yards? -9. How the hell do you have -9 passing yards?
Well, they had a guy that I've never heard of, like
Danny
I keep
DeVito's
calling
son.
him. I literally kept calling him Danny DeVito because I was like, is his last name DeVito? No, but like you're not gonna like win games with that kind of talent, that backup quarterback. Like if they had a like Gardner Minshew or something, or a Marcus Mariota at quarterback, they'd probably be a lot better. But no, I'm not done with them, and I think it'd be unfair on Dable to fire Dable, considering he won head coach of the year last year. So yeah, I think that's a bit jumping the gun a little bit. If I was the owners of the Giants, I would just want rid of Daniel Jones, to be honest. Like I'd just be like, that was stupid giving him money. I'd probably fire the general manager for giving them that amount of money.
Well, let's not fire
they're-
him because we hope to have him on the podcast next year at some point.
Okay, yeah, Michael, let's not fire him because of that reason. Yeah.
Well,
the Giants, let's be real though, the Giants were literally an easy chip shot field goal away from winning that game and not having to go through any of this crap. And although Greg Sirloin did his absolute best to nearly miss that 33-yarder to win it, they walked off with a win. But yeah, I mean, it was all on that, and it was an easy chip shot. Sometimes they're the hardest ones to make. Because there's more pressure on them. But that was it. Other than that, they had it won. We're kind of a crap team. So
the reason that Brian Dable will be fired in about 7 weeks' time is because of a market that slagged Zach Wilson for going on a night out with his girlfriend last week for Halloween on a bye week. As I say, welcome to New York.
I just want to jump in and say the head coach that should be fired, and I don't care that they won today, is Frank Reich.
Oh, he'll be, him and Dayball will go. I can't really think of anyone offhand
Chargers
right now outside of that. Depends.
Brandon Staley.
For all we know, people are sitting on their bank holiday and the Chargers have won by 70 points in Sunday Night Football. I'm going to go watch that right now. Can I just tell everyone, can I thank Michaela and Conor, and can I wish 26 out of 32 of you, percentage-wise, I don't know what that is, a wonderful bank holiday. Enjoy it. Yeah. When's the next one? Christmas in the South? Yeah. All the cool kids, Hannah Montana style, have bank holidays pre-summer. Yeah, sure. Look, we're saying and we'll get 2 in July as well. Whole different conversation. Folks, enjoy your Monday. Enjoy it. And if you see me in Germany next week, do say hello. Yeah, that's it. Have a great night, folks. Everyone, have a great week. Happy Halloween. What's Happy Halloween in Irish?
Connick May Unshupa in A.
I heard shop there.
Is it ESL or is that just Halloween?
Yeah, ESL I think is that night of the dead or whatever. Night of the fall.
The Irish term for Halloween is Och Shamna. Shamna.
ESL, I think that's how it's pronounced.
ESL.
Akma Iwa. Folks, have a lovely bank holiday. Keep her lit.